I view anime like Bofuri. It's like a newborn baby. It's fucking ugly, but you love it anyway because it's yours. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Is the Order an Anime podcast. That doesn't really roll off the tongue, so you can just call us the Gochuucast. I am here today with PK
Yo.
and Spatula.
What's up, guys?
And yeah, this is our first episode, so we have no idea what the fuck we're doing. But you know, we can actually, were we cursing during this? I just did, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
I'm down.
But
You know, maybe sparingly. Every so often, get like the one F bomb. It's the Disney rule.
the PG-13
I like
settings.
that.
But yeah, this is our first episode, so hopefully you can stick around for the hundreds more that are going to come out, right, guys?
Yep, hundreds.
Hundreds. You mean thousands.
Yeah, thousands, right. Until the day we die, we'll be doing.
Yeah. Until
we-
anime dies.
Destroy all anime.
Anime will never die because they have to make the next isekai adaptation.
Smartphone
That's
season
true.
2.
Instead of getting hit by a truck.
go.
What's that?
Smartphone season 2.
But we're definitely going to have. It's going to be like a growth period between episode 1 and however many episodes we do, because we got to figure out the structure. Like, will we just talk about the topic? Will we go on little tangents, which we probably will. I think that makes for a better podcast anyway, if we don't just like stick to some script. So, but for today, I think we'll be a little more not scripted, but we definitely have a platform to follow, foundation
At least
set
an
up.
attempt at structure.
Yeah, so we're gonna be going through our top 10 animes generally.
Let's go.
Not
Let's
based
go.
on how highly we rate them, but how much we enjoy them. So maybe some things will be in there that you might question, but that's just how it is. We did a random list, and I was unfortunately rolled first, so now I gotta be the first one to do things here.
Let's go. Let's see it. Let's see it.
I will send it now in the group chat here. We'll have Discord. What's it called? It's like streamer mode. It like disables all your sounds, so I don't have to like hear the message sent in or anything.
Yeah.
But going from the top, some of these, I don't know if I'd say this is in 100% order. Some of them are probably interchangeable. But starting off with WorldEnd, also known as Suka, which is also where my profile picture comes from generally. Clannad, mainly After Story, but Clannad is also great. 86, ReZero, The Journey of Elena, Somali and the Forest Spirit, Bofuri, Orogairu, Gochuumon, is the Order of Rabbit. Well, I guess we'll talk a little more in depth on that one probably. And Tsuki ga Kirei, which is, I think, the best romance ever. But that would be my top 10.
Alright,
I left
I gotta
Attack
get it
on...
out of the way.
What?
I gotta get it out of the way. Both of these.
Bofuri's nuts.
I should have seen that one.
Okay, you
Um,
can continue. I just had to do it.
I did leave Attack on Titan out of there just because I thought that'd be more interesting. Even though I rate it very highly.
I think the first thing I look at that I really want to talk about, because I haven't seen it, I don't feel particularly interested in seeing it because of the older style animation, but Clannad, especially After Story. I kind of want to hear some of your thoughts on that, why it's worth watching, why it might not be worth watching, depending on tastes.
It's definitely harder for some people. Some people call it boring, but I think boring is a stupid criticism because it's not even a criticism at that point. It's just opinion,
It's
which
also
is
it's too generalized. Like
what's boring to
watch
you might be amazing to
girls
me.
hang out, do
Sure.
nothing, and I am entertained.
Yeah,
But realistically,
that's like people's main gripe with it. And then I've read plenty of like very unintelligent reviews of it before, but I think the main thing that it's like the slice of life. Like there's there's a lot of slice of life anime obviously, but there's so much life you can slice, and I think that Clannad does it pretty perfectly.
Okay, that's the new catchphrase, right?
only so much life you can slice.
So like the first season, I don't rate it as highly as like After Story. After Story is like one of the greatest things I've ever watched, but in terms of the first season, I still enjoy it considerably. I think that like right now, I'm attempting to watch Canon, which is kind of like the spiritual like predecessor to Clannad, but I'm having a hard time going through it. I don't really get bored, but like right now, there's just nothing to like draw me in to make me want to watch it. But with Clannad, like every scene, even if it's like literally nothing, they'll have like a soundtrack that I enjoy. I really like all the characters, which is not something I can say for Kanon. It's just everything about it just draws me in. I bought the visual novel as well because I enjoyed the anime so much. Granted, I haven't put that much time into the visual novel, and I've had it for years at this point, but I have it. It's there.
That's what we do with visual novels, right? You buy the visual novels thinking that you want to read it, and then you realize, oh, I've already, done this story before. I'm
Yeah, I guess
busy,
there's like
I want to go do this.
I guess there's like different routes, right?
Yeah,
It's, like,
there's
that's
different
the appeal.
routes. That's kind of why I stopped playing because I got through one of the routes and I failed it, and so I didn't get the achievement. I would have to go back through it.
Failed it. Okay.
Yeah, so there's like optimal endings to like the Clannad routes, and
Okay.
I went through one of them and I failed, and and you need the achievement to unlock After Story, which is like it's like a
That's
hidden
like
level.
the big stuff for you. Yeah.
It's like it's the route. It is like the meat.
So we just Daniel monkeyed out of there after failing.
So yeah, I didn't look up a guide or anything. Just kind of like stumbled my way through the route, and I failed it. I'm like, well, shit. And I haven't played it
I actually
since.
didn't know you could fail a visual novel. Legitimately, I did not know that.
Yeah, there's so many different routes and stuff in them, and they usually have like fail routes implemented, which a lot of
Oh.
times will have like fun little ways that you fail, or like
Mhm.
death being one that I think is funny in some of like the more laid back like slice of life things, and it's randomly you go down a wrong route and it's like you fucking died.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate, but Clannad After Story is definitely the meat of Clannad and why I like it so much. I just think that it's not like complicated or anything. It's just does what it simply does very well. It's hard to explain without like spoiling things, which I don't want to.
Yeah,
But
sure.
I will say that by the end of it, a lot of anime they try and do like emotional stuff and try and make you cry, and you look there and you're like, two-line Timmy just got stabbed, but I really don't care, and so you move on and you don't give a shit. But then I watch like Clannad After Story, and like the most minor inconvenience can happen to a character, and like in After Story, there was an episode I cried the entire time because like I was already down bad from the previous episode. And then
and they
the
just hit
next
you
one
again.
afterward, it was every little thing that happened. I just could not control myself. And so throughout the
Yeah.
whole thing, something would happen. I'd be like, well, fuck, there we go again. And
Yeah.
it's probably the greatest experience I've ever had. Like if I were to,
Dude,
if I
I
were
want to
to,
watch it now. Now that you said this, I want to watch it.
if I were to develop
So-
Alzheimer's, I would watch the series again.
Yeah.
This would be the series to watch again.
So what would you say is like the big strength of it then? Kind of like character development and like making you really feel about those characters then?
It's definitely character based. I mean, it's a slice of life. It kind of has to be character based. There's not that much of a plot. Like I said, it's just the most slice of life, and it does its job really, really fucking well. And
Uh-huh.
it's just one of those things where you either love it to death, it's one of the greatest things ever, or that there'll be people that absolutely hate it just because they don't like slice of life or they hate that it's
Yeah.
popular, that type of stuff. I never see it get like genuinely good criticism whenever I read things. It'll just be like,
I
oh,
know
this
the
is
big-
boring. Oh, I hate this art style.
Yeah,
Irrelevant
I was gonna
things.
say the big criticism that I've had looking at it, it's not me saying the show's bad or anything, but the reason that I don't feel drawn to it is the art style, which I
Dude,
think
the eyes.
maybe
The
in
eyes.
maybe in a visual novel format I would be more accepting to that, but just looking at it as an anime, something to watch, I don't know. There's just something about the art style that has not felt super appealing to me.
Well, then you would have hated anime back in the day because that was like the just the general art style that they had.
That is fair. I am a little bit of an anime zoomer.
I mean, I am a little bit too, but like I've just never. There are times looking at an art style, I'm like, that's too much, or that's awful. But if it's
it's a taste.
if it's
thing.
good enough, I really
Sometimes-
don't care.
That's why I can't watch JoJo, dude.
That's exactly why I
cannot.
don't watch JoJo's.
JoJo,
Oh my
JoJo
God,
art
the
style
art
is
style
a
looks-
lot to buy into.
It's just like
Yeah, there's too much
too
going
much
on.
going on, dude. I need my characters to like not have noses and like have giant eyes. None of this like triple layered like I don't know. It's insane.
I
It's
don't.
too
I just
insane.
don't watch it at this point to like spite the people that do.
Oh, okay, that you know what? You do
I
you.
think
I mean, the
it's
art
like one of
style
those
too, but like
things.
at this point, it's like I will not watch this just because
Sure.
everyone wants me to watch it.
Yeah, at this point, it's almost like a meme war where it's the people who meme about not watching it and then the people who meme about watching it. And so it's kind of just which side of history do you want to be on? And for
Side of
me,
history.
I feel like it's more fun to be on the side of I haven't watched JoJo's.
I don't
It's
suck
you know,
penises.
yes, exactly. But it is one of those things. Like I'm a big shonen watcher. I love like that genre. I've tried JoJo's before. First few episodes didn't really get too into it, but I can understand how when it really gets going, that it probably just exudes all of those things that people love about shonen.
Yeah. I will say the openings, some of the openings for JoJo, the theme songs, they slap.
Bangers.
I can recognize after playing so much AMQ, I just know when I never know
You
which.
just
I
know.
rarely know which one it is, but I'll know.
But you know it is
I
a
know
JoJo.
it is.
Yep.
There's some that I do know at this point, but they'll like the Golden Wind ones. I have no fucking idea. If it's one that I don't recognize, then I usually guess Golden Wind. But
Fair
Okay,
enough.
so moving on, because this is one I've never heard of and I'm interested in. Your
Yes.
last one on your list, Tsuki got Kirei.
so this is once again one of the most slice of lives, but it's like a pure romance for the most part. Where Clannad is like kind of a mixed bag. It's not like a pure romance, but it has romance elements. This one is like it is the most realistic romance you'll ever see, and it's like it's an awkward romance, right? Usually in anime, it's like they take the awkward and they like drive it up a wall and bash your skull in with it. It's just too much like it's too like slapstick, I guess is the right word for it.
Mm.
Where it's they
Yeah.
play up the awkwardness a considerable amount, but Tsugakiri is like it's just real.
It's a real awkwardness.
Instead of like tripping over the words
Yeah,
20
like
times before they can finally say it, it'll be like they just
Yeah,
they just
They'll
can't
just
say
like
anything.
one, yeah, or they just don't know.
They just don't know. Like there's one part of it's episode 3 when they're just kind of like sitting next to each other, and it takes like a good 20 seconds before one of them even says anything, and it's like a quick response. But it was like and not an open-ended kind of conversation, so that they go back to silence. Like, well, shit, like, what do we do? It's just it's so good, and it's anime original as well, so it wraps up all in one season. So I didn't have to like do anything extra for it. It just kind of it was one self-contained story, and it was a really good one. Once
And you
again, some
say,
people say it's boring, but slice of life moment.
would you
yeah.
say that that's
Maybe,
something
well, I
like,
guess it's a difference of genre appreciation. I guess some people just don't like slice of life, so fair enough.
yeah? Would you say that that's something that'll probably just have that one season and just call it and say this is our our good one season? Do you think you could ever see it getting more content?
I will say with the ending of it, it will never have another season.
Fair enough.
It wraps
Inclusive
up.
ending.
It wraps up. Yeah, it wraps up the story as better as much as you can.
I think the interesting thing with that too, because I look at my list too, and some of the things I really liked about a few of the things I had on my list was kind of how real a lot of the characters felt, which is interesting because I think most of us use like anime and shows in general, even American television is kind of like a little bit of an escapism.
Yep.
So it's interesting how some of like a lot of our favorites, a lot of everyone's favorites will sometimes have kind of those characters that don't feel as anime and instead they feel like
It's just
you and me.
relatability, I think,
Yeah.
is very important,
Yeah.
which some people
Speaking of,
call boring, but
yeah.
it's like, what do you want from a slice of life? People like, oh, it's boring. It's like, what did you fucking expect? A nuke to drop from the sky within the first 5 minutes? Like, don't
Bro.
watch it if you don't like it. If you don't like the thing, go watch Naruto episode 578. Like, I don't care. Like,
Yeah. It's like this is like how I feel like you said like had ReZero. I've only seen the first season, so like fair enough. I mean, if I'm missing stuff, I'm missing stuff from the second season, right? But like a lot of people hate Subaru. I feel like PK hates Subaru.
yeah, that's kind
I
of
do
like
hate
that's
Subaru.
the idea, and it takes him. All right, so well, I guess we're shifting talk to ReZero a little bit. I need to put into reference because I mean, anime is like it's very hard because seasons only come out every now and then. ReZero is very, very long. And so you have to take
Yeah.
into perspective that idea that sometimes things are not going to get resolved immediately. But Super starts to develop, at the end of season 1. And then season 2, I think it takes his character and it makes it actually like relatable instead of like this, because like in season 1 you're not supposed to like him until like towards the end where you're like, okay, he's getting better. In season 2, that's kind of like where you like really start. And ReZero characters never really stop developing. So to put in perspective the scale of the series, um, how many novels would you think is like a good like ending place for your general series, like a long run in fantasy?
I mean,
7.
personally, I think around like mid-teens, like 15
Okay, fair enough.
to
Yeah.
20 is a pretty good for like long running. I think that for an average series, I would probably say like 9 or 10. But I think for a ReZero that's going long, telling multiple arcs of stories and everything, I think like 15 to 20 is probably what I would consider the sweet spot.
Okay, so currently ReZero, the mainline novels. There's more on the side as well. There's EX novels, which is typically like the light novel side stories type of stuff. ReZero, which is a little over halfway done. We are in arc 7 of 11 right now. There's 29 mainline novels.
Yep.
So that's kind
That's
of where we
crazy.
are right now. And there's 5 EX novels, and then there's some what if stuff too. ReZero is fucking huge. There's so much content to consume, and
Yep.
that's daunting, obviously, for a lot of people. And not everyone's gonna be like, oh, I don't want to read, I don't want to wait until season 3 for me to like this character, for me to understand this character. But that's just how it is. I don't think you can like Subaru. He's hard to like, but that doesn't make him a bad character. That's kind of like that's the whole point. Like, it's the idea of most isekai is to redeem. A lot of them throw that away, but ReZero is one that it doesn't like forget the fact that he's a real person from the real world or whatever, and that he has
Yeah.
baggage.
Yeah. I think like I never thought Subaru was like I never hated him because if you look at him from the perspective of like an anime character, he's like very pathetic. Because like most anime characters, it's just by the nature of the story or the character, they usually like figure out a solution and they're like do it like relatively elegantly. I mean, not all
Well,
characters, but to some extent. But I think if you view him like through the lens of like a real person, like how would you react if you were in his situation? I don't know. I feel like he reacted to like a lot of situations a lot better than like I would personally. Maybe I'm just more pathetic than Subaru. I don't know. But like to me, I like kind of understand his like well, I don't understand, but I can feel his pain and like um I just like maybe I just excuse his behavior or whatever
yeah,
more
I
than
think I'm
most people.
kind of. I think as much as I like to, meme like ReZero out of 10 and all that. I think I'm kind of more in between that in the sense that I think I get the vibes like what you're saying with where Subaru is going and where they want Subaru to be, but I don't necessarily know that I buy into it, and I think that's the big problem I
Okay.
have with
I think
Subaru.
season 2 would fix a lot of that because it like very
Yeah.
quickly it gives context to his character and why like episode 13 I think is where a lot of people like take they get their pitchforks out and like say this guy sucks when he like has this little outburst in the castle and embarrasses everyone, and then he gets the shit beat out of him and that type of stuff. He just
Oh
like
yeah.
brings disgrace to Amelia or whatever. That's where a lot of people have issues, and I think season 2 like contextualizes the thought
Yeah.
process and actually like it gives you why his character is the way it is. I think that's the most important thing. And it's unfortunate that it's in
Yeah.
season 2 as opposed to like
And not like end of
yeah,
season
because like
one
people who
when
don't
people are
like
so
that,
bought
yeah,
in.
yeah, it's
I think
unfortunate.
that on mentioning other characters too, I do think for me, I feel like a lot of characters kind of sit in that realm where I understand they're going to get to a point probably that I would really like, but through a 25 episode season, I just don't feel like they're there. We get a long wait until season 2. I think when I first watched ReZero, it was one of the early things I watched, and I actually really kind of liked it. And then I watched a lot more stuff, and then I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that this one's it. Season 2 comes out a few years later. I don't know exactly how long that wait
It
was.
was about it was 2016 was when ReZero came out, and then 2020 I believe is when the first part of season 2 came out.
Yeah, and that's a long wait for someone who is on the fence with ReZero season 1. If you're bought into ReZero, you mind that wait, but you're still gonna come back. But for someone like me, didn't like Subaru, wasn't particularly crazy about Amelia, Rem. Honestly, I thought the most interesting character was probably the the Count vampire guy. I don't know his name.
Roswell.
Beetlejuice.
Yes.
Oh,
I thought he was the
Roswell.
That was a weirdo.
Roswell.
That was a weirdo.
I feel like we just said two different characters, and BK said yes. No, I don't know anymore.
It was Roswell.
Roswell,
the
the
one.
clown makeup guy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
the guy in the mansion.
Yeah.
Yeah. I felt like he was the one that I was most interested in. Like, okay, what is this guy's deal?
Yeah,
I
true.
will say season 2 also give like season 2 is like the get to know all the main characters kind of season.
Fair enough.
But
I'm
we
gonna finish.
we will have the great ReZero debate
We
one
will,
day,
we will take you to school another day.
where we really dive
Take you
into
to
ReZero. So let's talk about, I think, the elephant in the room that is WorldEnd at the number
Okay.
1 slot. And
So-
obviously we know a good amount of your love of WorldEnd, but not everyone does.
Yeah, so whether or not this is like, I'd actually put this over like Clannad, I don't know, but it's just one of those things where I watched it like not like early into my watching career, but it houses my favorite character of all time, and I love the story of it as well. It's like there's a lot of things that I like about it, and I can't say all of it without spoiling, obviously. But the music it's some of my favorite. I think 86 might have my favorite music in anime, and especially with how they use it. But WorldEnd is so good in terms of like I see these two characters, and it's like typically it's like when you have a romance or whatever, it's like one of the characters is like super happy all the time, and the other one just like hates their life, and then one uplifts the other. But with the WorldEnd, it's like you have two pretty broken characters fix each other in a sense, and there's a lot more that goes on in it as well. But I think just the feel it had. I love fantasy. I really love fantasy. I think that's one of the biggest reasons Elena and Somley are so high on my list. Is that and ReZero as well? Is that I love the world of them, and fantasy worlds are just, especially if they're animated well. I think the first episode of WorldEnd might be one of the best first episodes I've ever watched, just because of how well it like contextualizes everything. The animation's pretty good too. It's not like a blow your mind type of thing, but it's really like it's subtly really good. Like it's consistent. I can't go too in depth without spoiling things.
Without spoiling,
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's not like it doesn't go over every bit of story either, but it's very satisfying even though it doesn't do that. Like you can end the season and you can like never watch again and just be satisfied.
Yeah, and it's like one of those things that just really checks all the boxes that like you specifically like too.
Yeah, I think one of the big things that like takes people away from it, the title is really long. I'll let y'all talk
It was
while
like
I
one of
look it
the-
up.
What is with animes
Yeah.
and those long titles? I just don't get it. I feel like there's so many that just have like a essay as a title.
Okay, so
I think
let
it's
me,
just translation issues from
Could be,
Japanese
yeah.
to English. And for a lot of them, the Japanese might have a nice compact title, and then when
True,
you're trying
you're
to
right.
translate,
no,
translators look at
it's
the title and are like,
I will say it is this one's a little bit justified. Some might do that, but this one, let me read out the full thing here.
okay.
Shimatsu nani shitemasu ka, isogashi desu ka, sukute marate ie desu ka.
Okay.
In English, that
Wow.
translates to WorldEnd. What are you doing at the end of the world? Are you busy? Will you save us?
That is a long yep.
Jeez.
Those are words.
So I don't remember much, but I do know that I watched WorldEnd. There was a
you
period of
did.
time. Yeah,
I did
there
not
was a
know
period
that.
of time where me and my best friend were kind of just, we had gone from watching a lot of like the gateway type anime and a lot of the popular stuff, and we were kind of just like looking for stuff to watch. And so we went on this phase of like 6 months where we were just like, let's just watch a bunch of 12 episode, solo season bangers or not bangers, just whatever we can find. And I remember at one point my buddy found WorldEnd, watched it, and was like, hey, this one's pretty good. That was a long time ago, so I don't particularly remember too much about WorldEnd. I remember enjoying it, but not being totally bought into it.
I see.
I did like the two main characters a lot, but I think it was a lot of the side characters for me. Not necessarily fell flat, but
I think it's complicated when they're not like the focus.
yeah.
And it's probably like I have the novels. I haven't read them yet because I'm really bad about reading my novels that I have, but I read a little bit of novel 1, and there's like so much context you lose in light novel adaptations, which is one of the reasons I love 86, because it takes season 1 is just what it was.
It's
It
just
was
novel
one. It
one.
was novel 1, and I think like the last episode had a little of novel 2 or something like that. But generally,
yeah, it did. You're right.
but
It did
generally,
Yeah.
86, the first part of season 1 was just one novel, and then through part 2, it got to the end of 3, which is like unheard of because normally it gets to like novel 6 at the very least. They'll do like 3 per like 12 episodes, and that's just like the general. Like sometimes they'll go more. Like I think Bokutachi no remake, which I really liked, but it like speedran its content in a way. I think to get to like
Mhm.
the more interesting points. But in like
Also, I
12
think so it
episodes, it
could
did like 5
finish.
novels.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
felt like the
Yeah, I
goal
think-
of Bokutachi no remake was kind of to just do the whole story, or at least, an abridged version of the whole story in its one season. I don't think there's a second season.
It's not done. Like there's more novels or whatever, but the way that they adapted it,
Yeah.
like they can't do another one unless
It
they like really
feels
slow
done.
down the pace.
Yeah.
I think it's just always kind of an issue with like adapting stuff for like different forms of media.
Yeah,
You just
like
have to choose which things to cut.
details really hard. Like ReZero, season 2. By the way, since y'all haven't seen it, like season 1 had like some longer episodes, like 26 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah.
In the second part of season 2, and does a little bit in the first part as well, there are a lot of episodes that are just like straight up 29 minutes.
Wow.
And even then, it can't even begin to like scratch the surface of how much detail
Yeah.
ReZero has. Like the novel readers, they get really upset when like important things get cut, but it's just really hard to like.
There's just so much.
There's so much. There's some things I do like agree like this should have been in there, especially if like that you're going for like a long term kind of thing here. But at the end of the day, you can't blame them entirely because they have 29 minutes and they have to get what they need done in that time. And it's not like it's
in
easy.
a
It's
lot
not
of
like you can
cases-
always just do 29 minutes or whatever because
Yeah.
they're buying the advertising space for that project, and then they have
Sure.
to put more frames in. It's just really difficult to do. It's more expensive.
And I think everybody experienced that like at some point in their lives, like with like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or whatever, right? There's just like always going to be like an issue with, well, not issues, but like, some constraints that um every company is just going to have to follow when they're trying to adapt stuff from book to movie or light novel to anime and things like that. So
Yeah, it's
just
easier
kind of
with
what is what it is.
manga because especially light novel stuff, like you have to make up a lot of that on your own. Like you have the character
Yeah.
designs, but you don't have like the world around it.
Oh, right, yeah.
You'll get the occasional picture or whatever, but most of it's like up to.
Oh, that's true.
You just gotta like do it. Manga,
Visualize
you
it.
know what you can do. You just have to like connect the dots basically between the panels. But with light novels, you're like, well, I guess we're doing this all from scratch. Like it's just
For
really
sure.
like there's really
And
difficult to adapt.
sometimes there's just things in light novels too that get a lot of attention. This is books in general, like book adaptations in other countries as well. But there are things that you can't describe visually in the same way that you can describe verbally. Especially, very big detail things. I think there are a lot of times with adaptions where you just kind of have to make it, right? And hope that the message is clear.
For sure.
Yeah, it's definitely
Winging it.
very difficult to do light novels.
All right, so then wrapping up your list, I feel like we do need to talk about this a little bit. Is the Order a Rabbit our namesake?
So I debated if I really wanted to put this on here. You don't want to know what the other one was. Trust you probably know deep in your heart what it was. I decided to.
I think I know. We'll have an episode for that in the future.
It'll
In a
have a
way.
guest appearance in one of them, but let's just say there's an X in the middle, and it's not Hunter x Hunter or Spy Family. So use your imagination on
Okay,
that.
dude. I'm out.
Oh,
But
yes, sir.
so for Gochuumon, I had to like really think, but I think it was one of those things where it did for me what 86 also did, and that was get me back into anime because I watch a lot of like dog shit, right? And sometimes it burns me out if I watch enough of it. But then I watched 86, and it got me back into anime for a little bit, and I burnt out again. I don't remember. I don't remember which came first. Was 86 or Redo a Feeler first? It might have been around the same time. I don't remember.
Is around the same time, I think.
But I got really burnt out on anime again, and then I'm like, you know what? I saw like the key visual for this a while back when season 3 aired. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna watch it. I need something. I need like that's why I put Bofuri on my top 10 is because it like heals depression. Like I was really sad one time, and then I rewatched Bofuri, it went away. I'm like, well, all right, it's the power of slice of life, do nothing kind of things. And so I felt, why not give this thing I saw that looked cute a try? And then I watched all 3 seasons, the movie and the OVA, in the span of like 3 days. I'm like, well, I've done it. I've gotten back into anime with a coffee shop anime.
Was that a cafe?
A whole cafe anime. And then it's just a feel good watch. Like there's no point in which I felt bored because like the characters all bounce off each other really well, and it's got like a little bit of like actual writing in there. It's kind of like a coming of age in a way, like, and it's just good. I don't know how to describe it. I just like it, and here it is.
Yeah,
It's
you're
our
I
Sometimes
watched
you just can't explain.
yeah, I watched a season and some change of it. And I agree with that. I think this is a genre that's really hit or miss for me. Some of my favorite series are in this kind of genre of just like cute, charismatic girls just really doing nothing but having fun. But I thought this one really hit for me. Like you said, I thought the characters are interesting enough that they just kind of carried the fact that they're quite literally not doing anything other than being at cafes
exists.
for the majority of it. Yep. So I agree. I think it had a niche that it wanted to go for. It really kind of executed on that.
Mhm.
And it just feels good. And at the end of the day, that is one of the most important things I think when watching anything is to enjoy it.
Yeah, I'd say so. Spat, you were gonna say something when you and PK like clashed over the control of the mic for a
Oh
second.
no, I just said like sometimes you just can't explain why you like something.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no
just
like deeper meaning.
I can't look like I like writing a lot. I like the idea of like literature and characters and stuff like that. But I can't do that with this. It's just good. It takes my heart. It makes it happy, and that's about it. There's no like Bofuri is objectively fucking awful, but I love it anyway. It's like
Furry is like the exact example of what I think of when it's just I'm just here to have a good time. And that's it. I'm not here for story. I'm not really here for character development, anything. I just want to have fun.
it's like I view anime like Bofuri. It's like a newborn baby. It's fucking ugly, but you love it anyway because it's yours, and
No,
it's just
100%. Yeah.
there's
You know
nothing
this like
to love about it other than it's yours and you like it.
yeah. There's like like sommeliers, the people who like are like experts in wine, right?
Yeah,
So like there's like this this like stereotype that like sommeliers like they only like dry wines because they're like experts. They don't like things with like a lot of sugar in them. But like supposedly when they meet up, like they have a meeting like every year or something, there are like 20 of them around the world. They drink like the sweetest wine possible just because it just like tastes good, right? So and like a bunch of like Michelin star chefs that like go home and eat McDonald's, right? So it's like sometimes it's like even if you think you're like super into like the details of like anime and stuff like that, sometimes you just need something simple that's just like feels good, Nothing deep, right?
Also,
yeah,
sometimes you just want to turn your brain off,
Yeah, exactly.
realistically.
Oh, I
yeah.
don't want to think about what's going on. I just want to watch some
There
anime.
there are sometimes though when I watch stuff and I'm like, I want to have my brain off, but I can't. It's just there's just too much
Hyperanalyze
like
it.
it not even hyper analyze. It's just dog shit, and I can't ignore the fact that it's terrible because it's so terrible. Like
Mhm.
Platinum End, like maybe if you turn your brain off, you're like, yeah, this is stupid, and you have fun with it. But like I look at him like I hate everyone in the show except for like one guy, but that one guy dies, and so I hate everything again.
How I
It's
felt
Fair
this
enough.
season watching episode 1 of Skeleton Knight. I wanted to just like look at it, turn my brain off, and have fun, but there were just some decisions and things that happened in the first episode, and I'm sure everything gets better, right? Unless it doesn't. But let's just say everything gets better. And I know Skeleton Knight's really popular, but the first episode just I kind of went into it wanting to turn my brain off and have fun, and I just didn't feel like that happened.
yeah, I'm glad I skipped that one. I read the description. I'm like, That's just Overlord, but he's not evil, so I don't want to watch this.
Okay, so moving on to Spatula's
Yeah, it
list,
should
I
be
think.
Yeah, let me paste my list here. Give me a second. No flame, no flame.
No flame.
It's
no
actually
flame.
not that flammable. It's only like
There's some fun ones on here. Can you
Alright.
read out?
Yeah.
Or-
So I'll start from 10. I'll go up. Switch it up. Number 10 is The Promised Neverland, but only season 1 because I haven't seen season 2. Because the second people started talking about season 2, they said they hated it. So
Don't worry.
I will
Just stop at season 1.
Just don't.
Stop.
Season 2 did not happen.
Okay, good enough. Good enough. Number 9 is Yamada and the Seven Witches. 8 is Toradora. 7 is Classroom of the Elite. 6 is Amagi Brilliant Park. 5 is Real Life. Love that show. 4 is Nagi no Asukara. I think it's like English name is
That's
like
a
Lull
Lull
in the Seers.
Sea. Yeah.
Yeah. And then 3, 3, 2, 1 are like all like normie animes, but whatever. 3 is Death Note. 2 is Code Geass, and 1 is Steins Gate.
I guess
So,
we
yeah.
should explain a little bit that you're kind of like our baby, I guess, when it comes to anime. You only have so much on your
Yeah,
list.
dude. Yeah, I don't have that much. This is
We
like
kind of have like
a third of
3
it.
levels here. We have Daniel,
Yeah.
who's like kind of deep into
Like the Dark
a
Souls boss.
specific- Yeah, we have me, who's kind of like in the middle, but then I'm also like really deep into random, sports world, idol world, stuff like that. But overall, kind of like average. And then we have Spatula, who has watched a lot of solid stuff, but just hasn't watched a
I
lot
haven't
of
seen
things
anything.
total.
It's,
Yeah.
I'm like final
It is
boss,
what it is.
PK's like mid game, and then Spat's like the tutorial boss.
Dude, let's go.
You're
So the first thing I look at that I kind of want to talk about, because season 2 got confirmed recently, is Classroom of the Elite.
season
Dude,
3
I
as
love
well.
that show.
Oh yeah, you're right, Bill.
I just like I like the main character, and I always like animes or like shows in general where like the main character is smart and he like solves stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like the mystery behind that. I think that's like super cool, and that's like kind of true for like Code Geass to some extent. Death Note kind of ish, kind of.
I think as watchers, we like to have either main characters who are strong or main characters who are smart. At least one of the two.
Yeah,
I like it to
Amagi
an
Brilliant
extent.
Park too.
There's some
Guys,
times
yeah.
where it's like, oh, they're so smart, and it's like, okay, like writing smart characters like so hard because what's the limit on too smart? What is
That's how I felt about Death Note, because I'm not the biggest Death Note fan. I didn't watch much of Death Note. Granted, I understand that probably by the time I got deeper into it, I'd get really into it. But in the first couple episodes, it kind of felt like when you play those pretend games with someone else, and then you just like make up how you avoided the situation you've been in.
Well, that's the thing. Like, no spoilers, but he like doesn't avoid it. Like, it seems like he does, but he doesn't actually.
I think Death Note is probably one of those series that we don't have to like hardcore spoil it, but like if you haven't watched Death Note, let's be honest, you're probably like me and just aren't interested in watching Death Note.
I haven't watched it simply just because.
What's that?
I said I haven't watched Death Note either, but not because I have any like thing against it. I do now because I've watched Platinum End, which is from the same guy, and it sucked. But
oh my god!
So I'm gonna like go into Death Note like Platinum End kind of sucked. I haven't seen your top.
I feel like
4,
most people like
actually.
Death Note. I don't know, but you know,
I think Death Note has a lot of qualities that make it really appealing to people, and it. How do I want to put this? I think it's one of those anime that feels very gateway in a literal sense, where it's kind of similar to a lot of US shows in a way that people like, and so it feels like an in-between between the shows that we're used to as Americans and the Japanese anime.
Sure. It's definitely not like very out there.
Back to Classroom of the Elite for a little bit, just because we're on the topic of like the smart guys and like if it's done well or not. I feel like Classroom Elite does theirs like kind of well because it's like his whole shtick. It's like he's really smart, but he didn't give a shit, and so he doesn't like actually do anything, and unless he has to. Like he got like straight 50s on all of his things, but he gets all the easy questions right or wrong and the hard ones right, just to like let him know.
Just to flex.
He's just trolling them, bro.
He's just a big troll.
We do a little bit trolling.
I did think
Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I did think that for Classroom of the Elite, I know this is something that a lot of people say about it. Um, it felt in anime form a little bit lacking on certain things, and I know that in
It's very
the
rushed.
novels, yeah, in the
Yeah.
Yeah,
novels you
novel
really get
readers
to,
fucking hate it apparently.
Yeah.
yeah, in the
He
novels you
like
really
goes
get
he
into
like
that stuff.
dates one of the girls for like a really long time that was like never shown in the anime. So
I think it'll get into that in probably like season 2 and 3,
also
probably.
there were like random characters in certain like introduced and you like don't know anything about them. Like there's this one girl with like white hair and she's like the king of like the other class, but you have like no
Mhm.
background on her. So like it's just like
I do
she's a
think
random
that
character.
it's like a really like it started the light novel ended like their first year recently I think,
Yeah.
and it started
Yep.
year 2, so it's gonna be like a really long one probably. Like
Yep.
I love that when it shows, especially because I am a sports fan, and a lot of sports shows love to just show like the golden year. And so to me, whenever I have shows set in these classroom settings, both in sports and outside of sports, I love it when they say, let's show a few years of their life. Let's go past high school.
Mm,
yeah, I think
true.
it's definitely that's uh a great thing whenever you get to like see more. I love epilogues and I hate when series don't have them. They just like
True.
end and don't show anything, especially if it's like it's done. There's no like open for a second part or anything.
Even if
Yeah.
it's like a just basic epilogue that just sets where the characters ended up and stuff like that, I think it's still something that I feel like I need to have closure in a series.
Yeah. I feel like I couldn't handle epilogues if they had a cliffhanger at the end or anything like that. It'd be it'd be a little bit weird. But yeah, the ones that have like satisfying endings are just like a place where the characters end. That's like perfectly fine with me.
Yeah.
I like them.
A lot
So
of
yeah,
series
I agree
struggle
with
with
that.
endings. Very unfortunate, but
I think it's hard to write a good ending, I think.
the thing is, you don't have to write a good ending though. You just have to write an ending.
Right,
And I
and
feel like a
ending,
lot of
yeah.
people
And
try
ending.
to get a good ending, and then their ending fucking sucks balls because they
It's kind of
tried
how I
too
felt
hard.
about Naruto. I think Naruto
Naruto.
tried to go for a really crazy ending that they thought was going to, blow people's minds and be like this big thing, and instead people were, for the final arc, without talking too much about it, people were just kind of confused.
Yeah, it's I say this for like a few different series. I'm not gonna get into them because I don't want to be like, oh, this series is bad, don't watch it. But there's some endings I look at and I'm like, okay, so they had like good storytelling up till this point, but then they just like chose the spectacle in the end to try and blow people's minds.
Yeah.
And I feel like it really hurts, especially if it's a long series. I'll say one day, like everyone knows, Domestic Girlfriend. I read it's like
Yeah, I knew you were gonna say
207.
it.
It's
I knew you were gonna say it.
270 chapters, and
Yeah.
for 260 of them, it was honestly, unironically, really good. And then it just sucked, and it like
Yeah.
ripped my heart out. I'm like, I read this for hundreds of chapters, and you decided to suck at the very, very end,
The very finale.
and
And
now I hate it.
I know nothing about Domestic Girlfriend, but I have seen a description of the way it ended,
It's so
and
bad. It's
it
so
just
bad.
ruins any idea that I would ever read it.
Some people were like, "Oh, it was like a dumpster fire from start to finish," but it was like, no, but like it was actually good. Like it had
No,
its
I
ending
really like the
set
ending.
up. Yeah, I bet you do. The ending was set
No,
up so
I actually
perfectly.
thought this. It was interesting. I watched it. It's like one of those ones where you turn your brain off. It was enjoyable. That's it.
I can respect
It's
that.
funny to meme the ending, but when I think about how much time I spent reading it and I look at
Oh
how
yeah.
it
You
ended,
Is it?
got that.
and it's not
Yep.
just that. It's when I had stakes on this, right? You watch Harem because Harem is trash, right? Like objectively, it's terrible most
Sure.
of the time. And but you watch a harem because you pick a team and you stick with that team until the very end, the bitter end. And if you lose, you lose, and if you win, it's like the greatest thing ever. But with this, I was at the finish line. Someone took a gun. They shot both my kneecaps, and then like dragged me away. And that's how I lost the race. There is no
That is
reason
gruesome.
my best girl should not have won. She had it in the bag, and she was screwed over for no reason. I was very upset. And there's nothing worse than that.
Fair enough. So, good classroom of the elite talk.
Yeah.
But no, unironically, what I am interested with as we move from this to the next one, I really want to talk about. I want to see, I think in season 2 and season 3, classroom of the elite kind of slow down a little bit.
Sure.
It doesn't
It
have
was
to
very fast
go too
first season.
slow, but I want to in season 1, someone who didn't read going into the season but watched the whole season weekly, it was good, but there were points where something just felt off because of the pacing being so fast. Even
I
as
feel
someone
like you
who's not
never got introduced to
exposed.
the other characters enough.
Yeah. I would
They're
love to
just like
see it
NPCs.
slow down a little bit from there now that we have a baseline and we've gotten to a certain point, and really let us kind of, relish what makes the story good, which I think in season 1 may have been a little unclear. The MC is really fun, and I think surprisingly likable for this archetype.
I think a lot of people generally tend to like those characters, though. Like the cool, quiet ones who are good at what they do, but they're not like. He's like kind of overpowered, I guess, in like some way. He's definitely smarter than
For
like
sure.
everyone else. But I think it's good that there's a drawback in the fact that he just doesn't give a shit. He's just there to live his life, and everything else just kind of like happens, and he has to deal with it as he goes. But I do hope it slows down a little bit, because like a lot of the times in season 1, it would be like, because when you're reading a book, it doesn't matter. Like you can take your time with it, but in season 1, you're like splat like the entire like screen with information about a character, and you either got to pause or you just got to like give up and be like, whatever, I don't care.
Yeah.
I love just reading a book on my screen while watching a show.
Yeah.
Same as how I love reading the Hunter x Hunter manga, so I can read a book while I'm reading my manga.
You don't read Hunter x Hunter though, because it hasn't had a new chapter in like 1,000 days.
Yeah, there are points in Hunter x Hunter where, unironically, there are no pictures, only words.
That is interesting.
So moving on, because this is one that I don't think I expected to see, because I think both of these make sense for you, Spatula, but
Okay.
Nagino Asukara, Lull in the Sea.
Dude, I don't know why. I feel like half the episodes in that show were like really boring, but for some reason I still like the show. I don't know why. I like legitimately don't know why. I feel like I got bored like every other episode, but like I guess it is just like a plot.
But for some reason, those
thing, right?
episodes still like really caught you where you weren't bored.
Yeah, it's like every other episode. It's like a setup for the next episode. I just like really like the characters. I also really liked. I guess it's like a spoiler, or whatever. But it's like split into 2 parts, and I like really like how the first part transitions to the second part. It's like 2 very clear like parts of the show, which is interesting. It's not like 2 seasons; it's just like 2 parts. I thought the art was like really pretty. Like the underwater stuff was really cool.
I will say, I think I've heard the ending is bad. Is this true? Because I feel like I've stayed away from like watching.
I mean, it depends on whether you're invested. There's like 5 people. Like, it's like, I guess you can call it a romance. Yeah, it's a romance, and but there's like 5 people, like 5 or 6 people, like interested in like a love like hexagon or whatever. So I guess if you're like invested in the relationship between one character,
depends on who wins in the end, I guess.
You want, I can show you this picture. You don't have to read all these, but this is kind of the
this is like
drawing of
like
the web of relationships in this.
It's like a what's the 7? A septagon?
Yeah, a septagon. Yeah.
That is quite the chart.
Yeah,
now,
I'm not gonna read it.
It's just like you care.
The art for this looks phenomenal, especially like, what was this, 2013, which isn't that old, but
I mean it's decently old.
2013. I actually need to look this up.
That's almost a decade ago.
2013.
I think it might.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's almost a decade ago.
Yeah,
the promotional art looks phenomenal. Yeah, I think water is something that is hard a lot of times to animate. And all the pictures I'm seeing of this, it looks like they did a pretty good job.
I feel like water is really hard to fuck up though. I feel like I see a lot of good water.
It's like
except for when they like CGI the water in for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Then like it was really bad. But
it's a little bit of both. I think it's hard to have really good water, but it's also hard to have really bad water.
It's easy to just have something water.
Yeah, this is something as like a One Piece fan, right? Like I've really paid attention to because One Piece has gone through 20 years of water, right?
Water. This is a video essay. 20 years of One Piece water. How has it evolved?
Well, to be fair, this one was like underwater, right? So this is like it's like different, right? I guess
it is different. That is
I feel like you have to light it specifically.
There was like an underwater city, right?
Yeah.
So it's like people walking around with fish. So it's like the difference, and I thought that was like cool. And
even
I like
then,
the music
it's too. Like that's kind of a hard aesthetic sometimes to even like picture, right? because on one hand, there are probably scenes in it where it just looks like normal, but then there's just water at the top to remind you that you're underwater. But there are also probably parts where it's like you really feel like you're underwater in it.
Yep. For sure.
I don't know much about this, but I think looking at this little septagon is funny.
It's complicated, and it like makes no sense if you don't.
Looks frustrating but fun. You know, it makes me think of shows like Gamers, which is not good, but
that was your favorite show.
It does remind me of shows like Gamers, with just like this intricate web of characters. They all got something with each other, except for this one girl on the bottom
She's
left
kind
of
of
this
there.
image. She's just there. Everyone else, like, they're all pointing at each other with various things.
But I do want to. So for Toradora, does this have anything to do with the UFO meme?
Oh, dude, don't get me started on my Toradora
I'm not gonna explain that.
I'm in danger when it comes to like figuring out what's going on in every show. You don't want to start me on that, okay?
I don't think I know the UFO meme.
Okay, so as an outsider,
have you seen Toradora?
Have you seen Toradora?
I have not seen.
All right, this is gonna make no sense. You need to watch Toradora.
Okay, basically, I just speculated girl was lesbian. That's it. Like using context clues, but it's wrong.
It was the way. It was the way he speculated it. Was just he. Let's just say.
I took an inch and I went a mile. That's all.
Yeah.
He made a mountain of a molehill.
For sure.
As they say.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Trying to look through here. Real Life I haven't watched your top 4, so it's really hard to bring them up. They're all things I want to watch, but just I'm really bad about watching things.
Spoiler, it's gonna show up on my list too, but I am a big fan of CotE as well.
I love CotE Geass.
I've gotten spoiled.
I've watched the second season in one day.
I think basically, but it's definitely something I'll watch eventually.
For me, it's also interesting because CotE Geass was actually probably the 4th or 5th anime that I watched. I would probably go as far as to credit it as like the point where I went from like anime's kind of cool to like I want to watch more of this.
Yeah.
But I do wonder if I hadn't watched it so early, if I watched it later, if it would still be as high for me. I think I would still like CotE Geass a lot because there are a lot of things it does really well that got me really interested, but there might be a bit of a timing aspect with that for me too.
Like there are definitely some things I look at and I'm like, I don't want to rewatch this because if I do, I feel like I'm gonna not like it anywhere near as much as the first time.
That's how I feel about old cartoons. Like I recently tried to rewatch Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
Those type of shows I would never be able to look back at.
Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I know that's a more extreme example, but it's still like I tried watching it and I was like, no, I barely even know how I liked this as a kid now.
Yeah, no, I'm the same.
Yeah, there's one time, it's not anime, but I tried to watch a Power Rangers movie, like however many years later, just to see if it was actually as hype as I thought it was. And then I couldn't get more than like 5 minutes in because they kept making really corny puns. Like they would like trip a dude and they're like, see you next fall. I'm like, oh, all right, I'm done. I can't do this.
I like that.
I can't do this anymore. But I think there's definitely some things you grow out of. I'd have to like really think about if there's anything I have like that. But maybe like SAO was a thing, because when I first watched SAO, I was like, wow, this is the greatest thing ever. And then I like actually learned how things work, and I'm like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Pokemon being two of like
Pokemon.
being two of kind of like people's first anime that they didn't even know were anime. Those are two examples of they're very formulaic, and once you have a developed brain, it can be really hard to watch the old version of that, because it's just go to a place, battle someone, you win, and then it does that for 50 episodes, and then it ends the season with like a fun anime-esque arc of some sort. But you have to get through like 50 episodes of that.
It's like watching Pokemon, and then like now that I've played the game like in a competitive sense for however long, I look back at like the anime and I'm like, I can't. Bro. I don't think I could ever watch the anime the same again.
Why did you double on turn 3, bro?
Yo, minor spoiler for Pokemon Journeys, but not really. I was watching an episode of Journeys because Luigi and I are trying to catch up on it for the big stuff that's about to happen in the current Pokemon anime. And there was a turn in this battle. You could tell Pokemon Brain because I called it a turn. But there's a point in this battle where Ash doubled out one of his Pokemon.
He doubled
and sent something
Holy
else
shit.
out, and I flipped in DMs Luigi, and I was like, he actually did it, the madman.
Yeah, because like you'll look back and then like, why the fuck did Ash just use like Energy Ball versus like a fire type, and why did it work? There's nothing you can do about that, I guess, with anime, but like, it's just so weird.
What I will say is, I think over the last few years, the Pokemon anime has actually really stepped up. I know that people say similar stuff about the Yu-Gi-Oh animes too, although I'm well out of the Yu-Gi-Oh world. But they've really stepped up to be unironically good shows. XYZ was phenomenal and very anime. Like Sun and Moon was kind of slice of lifey, but pretty entertaining. And then Journeys, I've watched 70 or so episodes of Journeys at this point, and it's just fun.
Yeah, I know that Ash actually has a team though that doesn't suck.
Yeah, it has like battle episodes with Ash that are, shonen battle episodes, and it has, a slice of life Pokemon of the week that Go is gonna go capture because, his goal is to catch every Pokemon. So at some point you gotta show at least, most of those Pokemon getting caught by him.
Yeah, there's like sometimes what was I gonna say? Oh yeah. When Ash he gets like the end game. He's got 8 badges, and this motherfucker has not evolved his Pokemon. Like, why?
It's a Bulbasaur.
Why do you still have a Bulbasaur, a Squirtle? Like, please just evolve your Mons. It's not complicated. He doesn't care. He lets it happen. Like, I know in like Diamond and Pearl or whatever, like Piplup didn't want to evolve, and so they got Piplup and Everstone. Like, do stuff like that. If they don't want to evolve, then they don't. All right.
At least write in why. Yeah. In season 1, it was just Bulbasaur and Squirtle just never felt like it.
Yeah, it's like you've had this Bulbasaur for 10 fucking years. Why is he not an Ivysaur yet?
He's still a Bulbasaur to this day.
I know they it was like the end of Diamond and Pearl. They like evolved as Cyndaquil. I thought that was cool, but like, why do you? I don't know. Because a lot in Sinnoh, he evolved a lot of his bonds. Like he had Infernape, and Torterra, and Staraptor, but then he just has a Gibble. You could have at least turned it into a Gabite, right?
No, like, I think just also for how fan servicey his team is right now. I won't tell you everything that's on his team if you don't know, but for how fan servicey his team is, it is kind of refreshing to see him rolling up with like a team and not just like 2 carries and then 3 babies and the broken Pikachu.
Yeah, because like they've been doing that since like XYZ. Like XYZ, he had a Gudra. I think he's a whole pseudo legend, and then he had Noivern, Hawlucha, stuff like that. And then in Sun and Moon, like he had a Melmetal. Motherfucker rolled up with it's a mythical at this point, I guess. But
it is a mythical. Yep,
mythical.
Like just to see him actually catch it and evolve it is so nice. I think he still had a Rowlet at the end, so fuck that. But like otherwise,
I think the other nice thing about Journeys and Sun and Moon to some extent too. Although Sun and Moon's hard reset a little bit early on, but it's nice to see him actually be. He's still Ash, like he still does silly stuff. He does strategies that no other trainer does in the show.
When Grotto eats its energy ball.
Yeah, but it feels like he's actually good at battling these days. I would say since XYZ.
You mentioned him doubling out, and I can just feel the growth, even though I haven't watched it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's one of the things. I also think, not to talk too much about Pokemon Journeys, but Go is a pretty fun character, surprisingly. I think he felt like he was just going to be a one-off, like, random character they added to the anime to give Ash someone to travel with, and he actually has had a lot of character growth and development. It really, I think, grows on people as you watch the series, which is nice because it's not like the Ash show, right? It's the Ash and Go show.
Okay, so
is it in your top 10? That's what we need to know.
It is not in my top 10.
Speaking of top 10s,
let's see the top 10.
Oh, we go into PKs now?
Speaking of top 10s, I have a top 10.
I had something for mine. Amagi Brilliant Park, I will say, Very good show. You should see it. It's like
It
slice of
it
life,
is
but
a
it has
good
like
show.
a smart main character who tries to solve problems, which I really like. That's all.
You got a
I've
lot
heard a
of
lot
problem
about it.
solvers.
One day, I feel like it's something I'll watch, but
You'll
to this
like it.
point, I
You will
haven't.
like it.
It's not like one of those things that's gonna like blow your socks off, but it's like
No,
it's just entertaining.
it's satisfying.
I have
It's very
nothing else.
satisfying.
It's just fun. That's about
Yep.
it.
Fair enough. All right, so looking at my top 10,
Yeah, let's see it. Oh baby.
I have some fun ones on here, but I have Fate Zero,
Okay.
Anohana, 86, Code Geass, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Assassination Classroom, Haikyuu, One Piece, A Place Further Than the Universe, and Ascendance of a Bookworm.
I'm surprised One Piece
I
isn't
feel like I've
higher.
heard of Ascendance of a Bookworm. What is that?
It's an isekai.
It's an
Is it?
isekai. It's
Yeah.
I don't know if I feel like Ascendance of a Bookworm should be at 10, but I think I watch a decent amount of these isekais, and there's something about Bookworm that just makes me feel like I like it a lot.
I feel
And
like
so when I was looking at something to put in this 10 slot, I just kept looking at it. I was like, it's my favorite isekai. It has a lot of like cool redeeming qualities that I like in the genre that I feel like you see some of them, but you don't necessarily see all of them in most shows in this.
I feel like with Bookworm, it's weird because what I really like about Bookworm, I also really hate about it. I hate an anime when there's like 3-year-olds who have like the IQ of like
Dude.
Einstein, but I also really like how the characters in this world of Bookworm aren't like stupid. Like obviously, this kid is like coming up with all these insane inventions. Somebody's got to be like, all right, what is actually happening
What's going
here?
on here?
And like multiple
Well,
characters actually
especially
questioning that. It's just
yeah,
really refreshing.
especially because early on you realize that the main character, mine, who is isekai into the world, was not born into the world like Mushoku Tensei, but instead was,
Like took the place
reborn
of a
in
kid.
someone else's body. Presumably someone who died
Yeah,
at the same time that this process happened.
that's what she
And so it's
theorized in the
fun
show.
to
At
see
least.
people be like, she changed. Why? And there are even moments like, when the family talks about it and they kind of brush it off and are just
Like kids being kids type of thing.
yeah, at least she's healthy, which I thought was like a really nice moment because it at least addressed it, but it didn't make it a big deal at that point. There are other points that address it too that I think are really good, but I did love the moment when the family's just kind of like, at least our little girl's healthy and alive.
Yeah, because some people outside they can like remove the bias from her or whatever. Like her, like Lutz or whatever. He's like, okay, so one day you were this way, and the next you were this. Who the fuck are you? Who are
Yeah.
you? I
And
really
like
like
you
that.
said, with the characters being smart to some extent, I think it comes back to when we're talking about like realistic feeling characters. I don't think there's any particular character in Bookworm that made me feel like they couldn't exist in this actual setting.
I do wish
Mhm.
that like sometimes they might have been like they might be like a little older because definitely times where I'm like, okay, this 5-year-old is like directed an entire like workshop of people. Well, obviously
Yeah,
in real life that's not gonna happen.
especially like non-mind characters, because mine's like weird
Yeah,
because mine
she's
was
the isekai
reborn.
character. She has an excuse to be intelligent, but when it
Yeah,
comes to
but
like
then
this
like
5-year-old doing stuff,
Frederica and Lutz and other characters that we see throughout the series kind of having these like really important high up roles or like jobs they do, it does take a little bit out of it.
It looks interesting though. Like, so basically what I'm getting at is she like dies and then she's reincarnated and she doesn't know how to read or something like that.
no. So
No, so what it
yeah,
is she from her previous life is just obsessed with books.
Yep.
And she's reincarnated into a world without books, an old,
Okay.
medieval
So she
type
just doesn't have
world.
books. Okay.
And she's so obsessed with books that she just makes her goal in life getting a book and eventually getting books plural, right?
Gotcha.
And that's kind of where the story takes off, is her having this modern knowledge of everything, books and non-book things, and being reborn into this ancient old world and kind of, trying to get these worldly desires that if we were reborn into these types of world, maybe we're not going to be obsessed with getting books, but there are certain things that we would probably be like, I need this.
Time to invent the ascendance of a flat screen TV when I get isekai.
God.
I also thought it was fun on that note, like some of the stuff she comes up with is like, especially early, like things that we take for granted. Like I think one of the first things she kind of invents in this world is shampoo.
Yeah.
And it was
Okay.
like a nice moment because it was,
Okay.
no one would really think about, oh, I've been isekai to a new world that's ancient. What I need is shampoo. But it's like, that's like real feeling when I think about it. It's like, man, I've been used to, shampooing my hair and like
It's
daily
smart.
hygiene for my whole life. And so I'm in this world now where that might not necessarily be how it is. That's gonna feel really different, and it felt like a really nice, like real moment to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fair enough. I mean, that's like, I mean, yeah, it's not something you would usually like an anime character just like, well, I shouldn't say usually, but a lot of times they just conjure up like whatever they need, but you don't think about them like thinking about real life um needs and necessities and stuff like that because that's usually handled by whatever the author does. I mean, you never see a person in anime like consistently feeding themselves from episode to episode. So yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
finding shampoo or what was it, she made shampoo or she found shampoo or
She
something?
made it.
She makes it,
She made
yes.
it. Yeah, I mean that's like smart, I guess.
Even
Yeah.
if it's like a primitive form of shampoo,
Especially
it's
because like
still.
back then appearances meant like so much in
Sure.
like the hierarchy or whatever. So even just having like being clean generally, you were on the big ups.
For sure.
I will say,
Uh,
as much as I love it and where it gets, maybe a little slow at the beginning.
I think that's kind of the
It's
point though. Like yeah, she has to
yeah,
start
it's
off
supposed to be,
like
but
monkeys didn't they didn't evolve in a day. It took a while.
yeah.
So she's
And
had
I
to like
found the beginning enjoyable, but I will say, you start the first few episodes, it feels a little slow. Try to stick with it if it sounds like an interesting subject, because I do think it gets there.
yeah, I like where it is. Looking at some of these other things, we didn't talk a lot about 86 when it was on
I
my
haven't seen
list,
it.
but you described to Spat here why 86 is a 10 out
The
of
most
10.
anime ever.
Yeah, so for me, I think there's something about the way that 86 is set up with the 86 people being kind of like the soldiers that are basically treated as machines, like inhuman objects of war. And I look at like real life history and stuff like that. And obviously, this is, exaggeration. This probably has never happened in modern history at any point, but it feels like something that could happen. And to me, there's something about that setting being something that eerily feels possible that gets me really intrigued. And that's a bad thing that it feels like something that could happen, but it's, just an unfortunate thing about this world.
Mhm.
But so going into it, you know, there are these people that are basically just soldiers that are deemed as, minorities of the country when war breaks out against the machines and stuff like that. And so because they are the minorities, they are sent off to war so that, the quote majorities can live their peaceful lives. Once those people are sent out to war, they're kind of treated as, inhuman objects so the country can have its propaganda saying, no casualties today and stuff like
Mhm.
that. And it's developed to the point in this society where a lot of people seemingly don't know about it. Although I would also argue that a lot of those same people probably wouldn't care if they know. And it probably gets talked about at some point, I would assume, in the light novels when, if it's even been developed to this point. I've at this point read 3.5 of the novels. But I think that would be something that comes up. But it's just interesting to kind of look at history, how history is developed for us, and look at this and be like, this is a a real possibility of something that could happen. Maybe not the machines attacking everyone and like that aspect, but the idea of a country seeing these minority people and turning them into essentially just inhuman, soldier machines of war is a scarily possible thing.
I think one of the big reasons I liked it, it goes beyond just like the setting and the characters and stuff. It's just so well directed. It feels like
Yeah,
you're watching a movie, even though it's like, episode by episode or whatever. It's the director's first, like, it was his debut, and he fucking knocked it out of the park. It was so good. Like,
yeah. I think all the emotional beats hit like when you want them to hit, and they hit you.
yeah, and Sawano, it's like a cheat code to have like a Sawano soundtrack, but the way they used it as well, like it's not even just they have good songs, like they use them really well. As uh, like they have the ending, which is Avid, but they have like the same song basically, but they have like a different like tune to it, and then they switch the lyrics up
Mhm.
with Voices of the Chord, and both those songs are so good. They're both in my playlist, and even though they're not like things you'd like think of as playlist songs, but they're just good songs and they slap, and so I just have them in there.
And I'd also say that season one as just a standalone season. So there is a season two afterwards. But even just looking at season one as one product has a great intro, keeps you interested in the whole thing, and it has a phenomenal end that really feels like it ties together everything that had happened in that season.
I feel like this is a show I would like, just based on the descriptions.
I think you would enjoy the show a lot.
I think you'd like it, dude.
Assassination Classroom, isn't that the one with like the tentacle dude?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
yellow guy. I haven't seen it myself, but I've been spoiled on the ending, so maybe I'll watch it one day.
Yeah, so the whole thing with Assassination Classroom is basically there's this super alien that has destroyed the moon and is now inhabiting Earth, and
Mhm.
no one can kill him because he's just OP. And so his request of the world is basically to teach a class that in turn will also be trained to kill him. And
Interesting.
I'm trying really hard to avoid too many
Spoiling
spoilers
it.
in
That's
this
fine.
description.
That's fine. Yeah, I
But
get it.
it's kind of like a wacky fun adventure. A lot of the teacher character, the octopus guy, is probably one of the most pure fun characters that I know of in anime. I think all the students, they kind of get their moments. There's obviously the main ones get a lot of moments, and then there'll be times where like this character gets an episode, you kind of learn their skills, and then those skills will be placed behind. I think the biggest thing to be about Assassination Classroom though is it's really fun throughout the whole series, but the ending, I think, to me is, am I still here? My Discord may have
Yeah,
lagged.
You're good.
of course.
Okay, cool. I think the ending is just really good, and we talked earlier shortly about how a lot of shows fumble endings,
Hmm.
and I think for me, this show got a lot of bonus points by having an ending that felt true to the series and very satisfying and a little bit, tear jerking.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Indeed, fair enough.
It seemed interesting when I looked at the
It's
premise, but I
something,
never.
add it to the list of I'll watch it one day. And
I
then
do think it's definitely a series that there's like a taste to it, right? Like I don't think anyone could watch this series and have a lot of fun with it. But I think that if you do start watching it and you feel somewhat interested, the payoff of sticking with it is really good.
all right. Since we none of us have talked about sports anime so far. How about Haikyuu?
Yeah, so Haikyuu, I mean, this is like the pinnacle for a lot of people of sports anime.
People
And
love this show.
I think, yeah, it's one of those things where Haikyuu is super receptive to anyone who wants to get into it. And I think that would be the big difference between Haikyuu and a lot of like the really good sports anime that I've watched is I feel like I can show anyone Haikyuu and not explain to them how volleyball works and they will still enjoy it. But I think when I look at a show like, Major or Ace of the Diamond, which are two baseball shows that I think are really good. It's hard for me to show those shows to someone who's not a fan of baseball.
Gotcha. There's more widespread appeal, essentially.
I think the other thing that's nice about Haikyuu is the issue that a lot of sports anime have mid-series is pacing. A lot of shows like Ahira no Sora have really slow pacing through games. They take a ton of episodes to get through a single game, and there's just a lot of dry space. And I think Haikyuu, while it does take a good amount of episodes to get through certain games, you don't feel bored at any time during them. I think part of that is just because of how the sport of volleyball is structured. There's some benefit to the fact that Haikyuu is specifically volleyball for pacing, but it is true that like the pacing of Haikyuu and the fact that it's receptive to non-sports fans, especially, I think, are the two things that kind of make it, the poster child for sports anime. And I think that there's a few series that are close to that, and a few sports series that I think need a little more love. But I think that for me, Haikyuu is still, at this point, especially given that I've read all the manga and it is a finished product, I think that it's still kind of king of the sports world for me.
So,
Gotcha.
all right, let me phrase this correct. How anime is it? Because, like Ice Shield 21, they have like superpowers and all that stuff, like Kuroko no Basket. How anime is Haikyuu, or does it just feel grounded in
In terms
reality?
of the sport, it's very grounded. I think that the only thing about Haikyuu that I would say is unbelievable is probably the main duo's fast quick, which if you watched Haikyuu, you would know that what that means. If you don't, you'll get introduced to it pretty early. But it's and even that's something that you could go look into volleyball, and you can find people being able to do this. It's just not realistically something that would happen very often, if at all, in a real volleyball game.
Gotcha.
But
So there's a small exaggeration of what actually
yeah,
happens.
it's not like with Kuroko's where they're just like becoming supermen and doing things that are out of the realm of possibility. I think there's not a single thing in Haikyuu that I can think of that is 100% impossible to do in real life.
I think I think that's a good thing. It's like why I really there's a few reasons I watch sports anime. One of it's like I feel like some of the fun of sports gets zapped out when you know that there's a story structure behind this. And like in real sports, you never know what's gonna fucking happen. But when you're watching like in a show or something, generally you understand like how things are gonna go. Maybe you won't 100% know who's gonna win or lose, but you kind of get the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like some of the fun gets zapped away. And then especially with anime, where it's like they over dramatize some things, it's like really hard to 100% get into um everything that's happening. But IQ, maybe I'll watch it one day.
I think it's worth it. There are some games obviously that are like, we're not going to lose the first round of this tournament to these nobodies with just one guy who's really tall and broken. But the other thing I would say with Haikyuu, which is surprising for a sports show, is it's very character driven. And that does not just mean the main team. There are, throughout the story of Haikyuu, many players on other teams who you learn entire backstories off of, you get really attached to. And it's similar in that way to like Kuroko has the Generation of Miracles, and how even though you are focused on your team, there's also these phenomenal players outside, and they're not just like cartoon villains for you to defeat and then move on to the next round, but they're actual developed characters. And a lot of times you'll meet
Get
those
connected to them.
characters. Yeah, a lot of times you'll meet those characters long before you play them.
Gotcha.
Right. I like that aspect about it. Rather than just like, oh, you're in the game. Now you're going to see their backstory, so you feel bad when they lose. You just have stuff, you have context going into it.
Yeah, obviously there are some games that are, just throwaway games. They'll make you care a little bit about the team, but at the end of the day, it's just in this episode you will meet this team, and then at the end of this episode you will beat them. There's always going to be a few of those games, but at least for like the big games, Haikyuu does a really good job setting up all those matchups so you care about them before you face that team.
Mhm.
I can respect that.
Makes sense.
So I think we're probably gonna end here. We're trying to keep probably an hour to an hour 30. Sometimes we might go over, but for today we are on a slight time crunch because of how things have worked out. But I think this is probably a decent place. We've talked a bit about each other's list. I think this was a decent first episode in terms of how first episodes go. We didn't like stumble at any point. No one died mid episode.
I thought I almost died. I had the white borders around my Discord that was like, yeah, you're
Get the not responding mid episode, just start freaking out. I guess like it's not like we're a live show or anything, so worst case we can just cut stuff. But
Sure.
in terms of going forward, I'd say we said it on Saturdays will be when episodes are posted. We're gonna try and do them weekly. Once again, within the hour to hour 30 time frame, maybe longer depending on the episode. But yeah, we'll be here on YouTube. We have social medias that will be linked in the description. We will also be on a multitude of platforms. All those platforms I haven't decided quite yet. Spotify, like Apple and stuff like that's going to be the obvious things, but I still need to set up the Anchor. I think that Anchor requires you to like post an episode immediately upon joining, and so that's why I've held off on it. But yeah,
Gotcha.
we're gonna try and grow this, but we're gonna have fun while doing it. Yeah, this has been our first episode, and I hope you all will come back for episode 2 and beyond. Thank you.